Yomi, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today and everybody else who's listening and tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for taking the time to join us today for today's podcast. We want to get into the topics of African spirituality, Ifa, and the power in it for those of us who are African or melanated descent in the Americas and the diaspora as a whole. And so with that being said, Ifayomi, can I get you to kind of introduce yourself to the people and a little bit about you and what you do and what you represent in terms of the culture and African spirituality?
How much time do we have? Just kidding.
I think we got an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes.
I'm just kidding. So as most of you all know, and for those that may be just listening that don't know, my name is Ifayomi. Actually, I was given a Yoruba name, Ifayomi, which means Ifa, which is the God, deity of wisdom and knowledge, save and or protects me. I have been a practitioner of the Yoruba faith, or what I like to refer to as the tradition, for about 15 years now. I am an initiated Ifa priestess, and as well as initiated into the Egungun society cult. I work very closely with Baba Odushola Osayin here in Las Vegas, and we have and operate an Egbe. Some people may call it an Ile. Egbe just means society or group. So our society or group here in Las Vegas is called Egbe Ifa Iwa Rere, which translates to Ifa Society of Good Character. So I work very closely with Baba Shola. Actually, he's been my mentor over the years that I have been in Ifa. And so we have here in Las Vegas about, I want to say close, well, not just in Las Vegas, but we have about 50 godchildren here in Las Vegas, where we do regular readings, consultations, and just helping people overall, helping, guiding, and assisting them in their journey of understanding who they are and what they want to become and what they came here to do spiritually, or what their destiny is. So that's a little bit about me. Prior to being an Awo, an Ia here, I spent a lot of time in the community as an event and a community organizer. What brought me to Ifa initially was I danced African dance professionally for 25 years. And when we get into the discussion about the ancestors, let me just put this out here, that you cannot dance to drums, and I don't care what kind of drums they are, and not be calling the ancestors in, because that's what calls them. And so that began my journey into Ifa. And so in addition to working with being the EF of the Egbe here in Las Vegas, I also work with a couple of other organizations as a cultural ambassador, doing community work for the community. African-centered community work. Let me just be real specific about that.
That's what's up. I appreciate you. So, Baba, would you like to introduce yourself and let the people know a little bit about you and the work that you're doing out there as well, out there in Vegas?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see. Let me get myself up here, see what I'm looking at. All right. So, first of all, I want to say Alafia, Buro Boye to everybody who joined us today. I've been in this tradition since 1979. Oh, actually, I'd have to, I say 79, but I really got to go to 72, because that's when I got a Yoruba name in a sort of initiation. But I got Aleke in 1979, let's put it that way. So I've been in stayed in this tradition since then. I've got initiated into Ifa in Ibadan, Nigeria in 1992. And that was in Ipata district under King Bogumbe. I want to say that throughout it all, I've tried to stay with it. I had my ups and downs. My first godfather was Babalosha Adeyemi Oyelumi from out of Oyatunji village, and we kind of set up in Los Angeles in the 80s, and so we went through kind of a growth process there. Lots of powerful people, great people to learn from. So it really helped me stay in this tradition. So it's been kind of a marathon for about 40 years now, getting to be about 40 years plus.
Wow.
So yeah, and then moving to Las Vegas in the 80s, I went ahead and established an egg bay here, and had some very great support. A lot of good people come in. Babalosha Oshun Leke was one of the most profound godchildren. Bye Chinu. He passed to the next world. And Tami Odutola, of course, Ifayomi Ifewemimo, Antoinette Stanton, so many, I just keep mentioning that have gotten involved with what we've been doing here in Las Vegas. And we've continued up to this point, trying to uplift Ifa as a tradition for our people here, and for all those that may want to be involved, whether they're African American or not. We have some that have different backgrounds, and we welcome them too, because we feel that Ifa has spread all over the world. It's not just a tradition from out of Africa as we know it, but it's all over. When you look at what Isheshe really is, it's the original spiritual tradition of humanity. That's what it is.
That's what's up. I appreciate it. So with that being said, especially with you being in the game and being in the religion and the culture for that long, how significant is Ifa and African spirituality in terms of us as a people, not only connecting with the source or the creator and our ancestors, but in terms of using the system of Ifa and African spirituality for us to grow as in strength and power within, especially times right now that we're living in? Like how can connecting with spirit, with the ancestors and the Ifa help benefit us in these turbulent times that we're living in right now?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think of Ifa as the original freedom fighter.
Okay.
Ifa is about freeing humanity from slavery. Okay. Slavery did not go anywhere. It was just updated for our people, for humanity. Everywhere people are in chains. And so what Ifa has you subscribe to or to align with is your destiny. And we say that everybody gets a destiny, and it gets assigned to you, or it's granted to you before you come to Earth. And especially for our people here, with the long journey that we've had, what we don't know historically is that whether it was our people here in North America or Central America or even in the Caribbean, when we did get free and stayed free, it was under those leaders who followed and maintained the spiritual tradition of Ifa, whether it was Budan, Candomblé, or Ifa or Santera. Wherever we got free in the Americas and stayed free, it was under them. And that was true in North America as well, with the Gullah. We don't understand that it was the Gullah that made slavery unprofitable and unmanageable. And so this is what ended slavery here. And the Gullah followed the African tradition.
Right.
They followed Ifa in general. So for our people, I also want us to know that we have a course in Ifa that we follow that's dictated or revealed by the what you call the Odu. And the Odu for African Americans and for this time now is called Ashe Ka. And what Ashe Ka says is that because of the atrocities committed against the slave and the slave master are going to trade places. That's the Odu of this time right now. So we're going to, the roles are going to flip.
Right.
And in other traditions, they say the last will become the first, and the first are going to become the last. Those who invested and maintained and were inherited the profit of being a slaver are going to be the ones who are going to be reduced, and they're generally going to lose all that they acquired through this enterprise
Holocaust
effort to enslave. All of that's going to be gone. It's going to be changed. It's changing now. As wild as this is, all this this virus, this trouble that we're in now, it's a signal of a change. The earth is changing. People are changing. Those that ruled before will not rule anymore. They're going to be removed. This is also the tradition of many of our Native American brothers and sisters. They have the same teaching, the same prophecy came to them, but it came to us as well through Ifa. Ifa said this was going to happen, and that there'd be these major changes, and so this is going to take place. And what we need to understand too, particularly with this virus that's going on, that Ifa teaches that whatever happens to you in terms of your health or illness or any fortune, employment, money, is a matter of your destiny. It's a matter of being aligned to your destiny. Yes.
Can you just hold right there? Andre, there are several people that are waiting to get into the podcast. I sent you a text message. I don't know if you saw it, but you have to let them in.
I only see two. I think what's happening, what I'm hearing, because I was streaming the Facebook Live as well, what I'm hearing is I believe somehow there was two meetings that was set up, and so some people aren't able to get in. I'm not sure how that happened. I apologize for the technical difficulties, everybody. It's my first time using Zoom, but
let in as many as you can. This, if it's the free version, you might have a limit on how many.
No, I upgraded to the Pro or whatever the paid is. But
okay, got it. Okay.
I admitted everybody on there is saying two waiting to get admitted, but I'm hitting the admit all, and it's not. I guess it's not letting them in.
So also too, you said there was two pages, two Zoom pages for the meeting or whatever.
I think somehow, I'm not sure. I don't believe I created two. I believe I created the one meeting. But what I'm getting from people on social media, who because I streamed the live, they're saying that somehow the link is not letting them get in. It's saying that the meeting's already in progress and they can't get in. So I'm not sure what's going on. But for those who are trying to get in, I apologize. It's not letting. I don't see nothing but two people, and I'm hitting admit all. But I'm going to definitely share the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well, so they can check it out.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So Glenda Lee, Can you let folks know in our Telegram page what's going on, and let them know that if they don't get logged in for some reason, to go ahead, we'll post it up on YouTube. So, okay, I just wanted to share that because that's why I put myself on mute, because my phone is blowing up over here. So I didn't want to interrupt Baba. So, but go ahead.
And I apologize for the inconvenience. It's my
No worries.
time, and I'm gonna get better at it. And I'll make sure next time I set it up the right way so everybody can get in there, because I want people to hear the content that we're providing.
Ashe. Baba, do you have anything that you could share with him, considering that we have, about 10 people on, 10, 12 people on the other day?
I think he got it. Somehow there must have been, because that's what I was getting, that there was another meeting, and it was blocking me from this meeting. So maybe if they're trying to go through their computer, they could go through their phone like I had to.
Oh, okay. So there's a suggestion. Simply let them know that they could probably go through their phone.
Getting into the Zoom. For some reason we're having technical difficulties. My bad, y'all. I'm just mute myself. Okay, apologize.
Okay, yes. Well, again, this is a very trying time for our people. There's another Odu that is very, very profound for us. And that, see, again, Ifa, the name for Ifa is Orunmila, and that name also means like savior, or in technically, or the exact translation is, heaven is my salvation, for Orunmila, to save humanity. Again, this is the role that Ifa plays, to save. He's also known as the best doctor. And in this time, there's an Odu called Osalagbe. Excuse me, Agbe Shah. That's the twin of it, but Agbe Shah. What Agbe Shah says is that if your head doesn't kill you, no king can kill you. This is the truth. This is the literal truth. If your head, which is synonymous with destiny in Ifa, if your head does not betray you, then there's nothing that this world can do to extinguish your life or cause you to be ill. There's no corona that could take you out. There's no government with a 5G plan or whatever scheme they've got cooked up. All of it will fall to Ori. Ori is given the power. It was said in Ifa, at the beginning of existence, Ori was given the power of Ofo Ashe, or command of the forces of earth, air, fire, and water, vibration, anything that exists. Ori is given command over that. Ori was made king of Orisha. The Ori that's sitting on top of your shoulders, that Ori, that head, this is the message of Ifa. And one final thing before we could get to another question. I think one of the best ways to understand the message of Ifa for our people is to watch The Matrix.
Right.
and I tell people all the time, trade Ori for Neo and trade Morpheus for Ifa, and you get the message of Ifa. Neo is everybody's Ori, and he's trying to get you to he's trying to wake up your destiny, wake up your head. And these creatures, smiths, that's also very powerful. These smiths, smith means to mold something or to change, like a blacksmith. Okay, you're able to shape something. They're trying to form and shape you into a slave or a cog in the system. There's nothing they can do, no matter what they have. Again, this is why Ifa is I call him the greatest freedom fighter. There's nothing they can do to enslave humanity once you are aligned with your Ori. Right. They cannot enslave you anymore. Slavery's over. Ifa came to end slavery once and for all, for everybody. This is the truth of the matter. And just like Neo, he wondered how, me, just like we, how can I stand up to all this? And he said that no matter what you're facing or we have faced, we've tried to, take down these agents, sentinel programs, they call them. And he's seen men empty whole clips at them and nothing. It hit nothing but air. This is what he says. But where their power is based on rules, they will never be as strong and as fast as you are. And Neo asks, well, you think I could dodge bullets? He says, no. But when you're ready, you won't have to. That's Ifa's message to everybody.
Wow.
When you align with your head, you won't have to. And the latest sword that they got, the latest bullet is 5G or whatever they have hooked up. And believe me, people think 5G is something. They got a 6 and a 7G. They got all kinds of things. But they really, again, the devil has always got a plan.
Right.
He's always got a plan. But but Ifa would tell you that he's been outplanned from the very beginning. Somebody outplanned him.
Right.
And it's all with Ori. Ashe.
If I could just add to that, when we're talking about the devil, we're not talking about the devil as we know it in church or through other types of religion, because Ifa teaches us one of the 16 tenets of Ifa that basically there is no devil. So when we're talking about the concept of what that really is and what that really means, we're talking about the higher parts and the lower parts of ourselves. See, to add to what Baba Shola was saying, what makes Ifa so omnipotent, right, is the fact that Ifa deals with the polarity of things. That's what Ifa is. The good, the bad, the up, the down, the in and out, the black and white, the male and the female, right?
Right.
So when we're talking about the concept of the quote unquote devil, what that really is the person dealing with the higher part of themselves and the lower part of themselves, right? So we all have it. And when you are walking in alignment with your destiny, the more you align yourself with what says you came to earth to do, the more the lower part of yourself gets squashed. So that's in terms of who we are and what we do in this particular practice. That is what we mean when we speak about the devil. Now, when we're talking about the system, right? Quoting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, of course, he called Ibai Tunu. Yes, he called them the devil, and he said, if y'all thought I said I think that they're the devil, what I mean is I know. So we're talking about, in this sense, I think what you're speaking about is the system that is creating times to keep us out of alignment with our destiny. Is that correct, Baba Shola?
Oh, yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay,
Can you hear
I
me?
can't hear anybody. Baba Shola, you're not even on mute.
Can you hear
me, Andre?
Yeah, I hear
Baba Shola, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't think he can hear me. Something happened.
It sounds like.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I hear you.
Now I can't. Yes.
It's not like,
Yes. I heard you. I heard your whole talk.
Okay. No, I'm just
Yes,
saying.
yes.
you agree with me.
That-
Okay.
So I think we're having some internet technical difficulties. We hear you and see you now, Ifayomi. Another thing that I wanted to get into, because that was a powerful lesson on Ifa itself and where we are in terms of what it means and what it's defining to us. A lot of questions I get from people in terms of our ancestors and honoring our ancestors is how to do it. So with you being an initiated Egungun priestess, am I correct?
Yes, correct.
Can you kind of share with us the significance of first honoring our ancestors? What's the significance in the communication with our ancestors, pouring libation to our ancestors, and also giving offering to our ancestors, and how we can do that?
Yes. So first of all, as it pertains to honoring our ancestors, one of the things that we, first of all, honoring our ancestors is not just an African concept, nor is it an African ritual. It's done primarily through most indigenous cultures or other different types of ethnic groups, because when we look at life and the life cycle, what we have to realize is that there is no death. So the bodies that we are in, our spirit are housing these bodies. When we make our transition, the body dies, and then our spirit goes on into the spiritual realm, which is a very real thing. And so the blood that flows through my veins is the blood of my ancestors, and the same for everyone else. That means that anyone that came before you in your lifetime, more specifically your parents, your mother, your father, your grandparents, those would be considered your ancestors. But then you have ancestors that even came before them, from hundreds of years back, going all the way back to slavery. So when we're talking about our ancestors, we have to realize that once we live our physical bodies, our spirit lives on. Thus, the whole concept of reincarnation, thus the whole feelings that people receive, like, deja vu, I've been here before, I don't know what this really means. I'm hearing this person speak or seeing this person, seeing this particular spirit, because the spirits are always around us. That means your ancestors, other people's ancestors, as well as the Orishas are always around us. So when we align ourselves or align our Oris with basically who we came here to be, then we open ourselves up to start to not only receive them, but understand that communication. As such, the ancestors, or those that came before us, their sole purpose in the spirit realm is to help us and assist us here in the physical realm. Well, how would they do that? It's the same way as if you needed my assistance with something. I got to communicate with you. I got to talk to you. I got to share with you what it is that I need, how me needing that and you giving it to me is going, and what that's going to yield for not just me, but for you as well. So we must have the same communication with them. In the same way we would communicate with each one of us in the physical, we communicate with the ancestors in the spiritual. Just like us, just like human beings, us being in our physical, we need what? Water, right? We need light, right? We need nutrition, food, right? And if we didn't have communication with each other, then what do you think would happen? So we need to be communicating with each other just to be living in our physical selves. So it's the same thing with the ancestors. We need to be communicating with them on a regular basis. And so the way we would start, so like, let me just back up a little bit. Sometimes people get into this tradition and, it's very exciting, right? It's very exciting, it's very dynamic, and it's very magical, especially when you start to connect to your truth. And as I'm sure all of us have realized that you're not crazy, right? So once you start to walk this particular path, the excitement of it, the need to really connect to it sometimes allows us to go beyond where, we start. It's like, if you're in elementary school, you can't really do the work in college. I mean, you can if you're a special child, you can do that, but those children are few and far in between. So the very first step for everyone coming into any type of African spirituality or any other indigenous practice is to connect with your ancestors first. Mm-hmm. So in just simple terms, how will we do that? Well, there's several different ways. There's a more elaborate way where the ancestors are seated in your home, and that involves more involved ritual or process that, but the most simplest way for someone who is just getting started is they can, let's say for instance, you have limited space. You can set up one little table, put a white tablecloth over it. If you have limited space, one glass of water, a candle, and maybe a bowl of fruit. And then you would add the names of your ancestors. Or if you have photographs, you would add the photographs of your ancestors. And just a side note, when adding the photographs, you want to make sure that the people in the photographs have all made their transition and that they are actual ancestors. There should be no photographs of any ancestors with someone in the picture that's living. So you want to make sure that those photographs are photographs of people who have transitioned into the spiritual realm. And then it is really as simple as, and you could get some help, guidance, and assistance from someone like me or someone like Baba Shola or someone who is already doing this. You would set that up for yourself. And then it's really just as simple as going to it's really as simple as going to that altar, saying a prayer, thanking them, because we really do stand on their backs. And it's not, I could go into let me just say this. We really do stand on the backs of our ancestors that are in our family lineage, okay? However, there are other ancestors that we also stand on the backs of, like the Honorable Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Noble Drew Ali and all of these people. But those people don't go on your ancestor altar. You can create another altar for those people. And I highly recommend it because we do, right on where we are today is because of the fight that they fought for us. So your ancestor altar would be for your ancestors specifically, and you can sit there and you can thank them. It is suggested that you meditate and you pray to them and you ask them what you want. You ask of them what you want. Ifa teaches us that, as Baba Shola always says, what comes from your hand comes to your hand. So, as I said earlier, in the same way that we need water, light, nutrition, and contact or some type of communication, so does the ancestors. So you can give them something, ask something from them, and I've been in this for 15 years, but I was just sharing with someone the other day that I learned, or yesterday actually, I learned something every day in this tradition, every single day, because it's just that bad. So going back to the ancestors, when we give them something, we're asking for their support and their assistance to go into those places that physically we cannot go into. And in one of the books that I'm studying on Ifa, it says that once you do that, it's not if it's going to happen, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. However, you want to make sure that you go to them with a pure heart and pure intentions. That's what's most important. And then from there, once you start that and you have some kind of consistent regimen with it, you could do it once a week, you could do it once every 2 weeks, you could do it every 4 or 5 days, however your schedule will allow and permit. You just want to make sure that it's consistent. And then you'll start to notice things, because one of the major ways that the ancestors come and they speak to us and they let us know that they hear our prayers is through our dreams. Okay? So when you're dreaming about your grandfather that had passed away, or your mother or your sister or your aunt, Yvette teaches us that that's an actual encounter with that ancestor. And so the more you connect with your ancestor via that portal, and let me just share this, the ancestor altar is a portal that you're creating to facilitate the communication between you here in the physical realm and where they are in the spiritual realm. And so that's why you want it to be consistent. Then once you start getting the messages, right? Having the dreams, hearing them, right? Then you can expand on your altar. You know, if you have the room, you want to add 9 glasses of water as opposed to 1 glass of water. And the reason why we add 9 glasses of water is because those 9 glasses represent the Orisha deity Oya, Tepae, who sits at the gate of the cemetery, okay? So she is that Orisha that is between the ancestors and us. So we put 9 glasses. Some people put 9 pennies on there. You can expand as people in your family start to make their transitions. You want to add people, but you want to make sure, you know, that those people have not, you know, committed some kind of atrocious crime. They weren't rapers or murderers or anything like that. Although my work as an Egungun priestess, I feel like, you know, they need light and food and water too. Otherwise, you know, it's a strong possibility that they can continue on that behavior in the spiritual realm, which is how sometimes we have all of these spirits that are just wandering spirits. But that's another thing. So once you set up that ancestor altar, which is that portal of communication, you start to add water. You can now go from 1 bowl of fruit. You can always keep a bowl of fruit on your altar, but now, you know, they want to eat the foods that you eat. You'll see sometimes people like myself, when I'm eating food, I always put a little bit on the side of my plate for my ancestors, even though I have real food on the altar for them. It just symbolizes and it gives reverence to them and the people that once sat with us and ate with us and dined with us. So you want to make sure that you have food, fruit, water, and the light candle, specifically a white candle. Now, people will read books and get information about how to set up an altar. And I want to say this, and that is there are basics, which is the water, the fruit and or food, and light. Depending on whatever lineage you're learning this from, or where, you know, what culture you're learning it from, it may differ. But once you set up that altar and you open up that portal of communication, they will start to speak to you and they will start to tell you things that they want, things that they don't want. And then later on, once you become real comfortable communicating with your ancestors and feeling them and hearing them and maybe even dreaming about them, now there's another level of communication where you can actually talk to them and they can talk back to you, and that is through the OB divination system. I mean, the divination system of OB.
That's you went into answering my next one of my next questions. One of the things I wanted to share too, for those who are beginners, which there's a lot of us out there, the importance of one, for our ancestors who drank alcohol, right? So, for example, I got one of my grandmothers, she drank rum, so I give her rum. I had another ancestor who drank Smirnoff, I give her Smirnoff. She smoked cigarettes,
Yes.
I give her cigarettes. So,
Yes.
that's in terms of that, just for the people out there, if you know one of your ancestors had a specific niche or something that they liked, that can kind of appeal to them as well, right? If we give them things that they pretty much, did while they was here.
Absolutely. The objective with that ancestor altar and creating that port of communication is really facilitating the things and the communication necessary that, like, as if they were here,
Right.
because they are here.
Right.
So, yes, same thing. I have Smirnoff on my altar for my mom. I have Marlboro cigarettes because she smoked. My father's side of the family, they drink dark liquor. So I put rum, dark rum, or dark whiskey, and all of those things that's relevant to them. My mother had given me a piece of jewelry. The last thing she gave me before she made her transition is still wrapped up in the box that it was in, and so I put that on there. And if I may, let me just give a little sidebar here as it pertains to the liquor, right? Because a lot of people always ask, well, why do I have to have liquor? Why do I have to spray liquor on my altar and a thing? Well, if we think about it, like the Indians and a lot of the other indigenous cultures, they were all, like Baba was saying, they were shamans, they were doctors, they lived off the land. And everything was, fruits and vegetables. And if we know and understand that liquor, distilled liquor, actually comes from grain and corn, that is what the shamans did back in the day to call in the spirits. One, because when you take it in, right, it has the ability to lower your what is the word I'm thinking of? It lowers your inhibitions. Yes, thank you, Baba. It lowers your inhibitions. So now spirit can come through and speak. And this is why all of our liquor stores are called wine and spirits, because it was originally created to call in the spirits. So that part of ancestral reverence actually is quite important.
Okay, and then one more thing I wanted to get your opinion on before we go to the next subject was you said divination. In terms of divination, for people who are not initiated, is it okay for non-initiates as well as, of course, initiates, but for us to do OB divination, and what would be the recommended means of doing it? Would you recommend coconut shells, or like what would be for someone who's beginning, for those who are just coming down this path of African spiritual and Ifa and this type of spiritual practice? What are the types of divination tools that we can use, to communicate with our ancestors and with the origins?
That's an interesting question.
You gonna answer that, Ian? Okay.
I want to say about it. I have my opinion about it, but go ahead, Baba.
We're probably on the same page. What I would say is that for us and for anybody, OB is probably the best way to start, and it should be OB Abada. That's and OB Abada is the one with the kola nut. Now, I've been in this a while, so perspectives change over time. When I got in this tradition in the 70s, there was no way to get a hold of any kola nut. No way. And so we learned divination through OB coconut, which is a valid system. You could use OB coconut too. OB Abada is a better system, meaning getting the kola nuts from Yoruba land or wherever else they'll grow, and they can be split into 2s threes, fours, fives, six, and they all have different significance in terms of how many you can split the cola and which orisha you go to, and it gets really kind of involved in you actually get more out of it. You do not have to be initiated
Okay.
To use OB on any level. It's the divination for everyone. The higher oracles like Marine de Lagoon or
Which
Ifa,
16
nope,
cowrie shells.
yeah, 16 cowies. Those ones involve initiation, specific initiation, because a lot of those letters will be what you call hot or charged, and you should have your head prepared or your spirit prepared to be able to handle that, and you should have an understanding of what they mean first of all, before you could really get into those. So those ones should have an initiation with them. But OB, everyone can use that one, and you should use OB for the things that you need to know. If you don't have to know that the sky is above you. You look up and it's there. It's gonna be there. Don't ask OB that.
Right.
Always go to O. Right. But it happens. People ask obvious questions.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You don't have to go to OB for that, but you could go to OB for things that you need some type of help understanding. It's beyond your ability to comprehend at the moment. That's when you go to OB.
Cool. So I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Let me just ask something. First of all, someone hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Out for a while, but we hear you now.
Hello?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Okay. Someone asked the question. Now I can. You kind of went in and out, but I can hear you. Someone asked the question about the photographs being on the altar. They asked even if they're the person in the photograph, can it be on the altar with the deceased person? And the answer to that question is no. You should not be in the photograph with the deceased person on your altar. Only people should be on the altar in terms of photographs. It should be actual ancestors or people who have made their transition. Okay. The other thing is someone asked me, how many altars can you have? I'm not sure I understand that question, but let me just, I don't know if they're talking about just ancestral altars or are they talking about, so let me say this. You can have your ancestral altar. That's a given. And then you have a separate altar for, as I said before, those other freedom fighters that came before us, if you so choose. That's not a requirement. It is a suggestion, but it's not a requirement. And then you can have other altars if you want, but it all depends on what you're doing with. Like if it's just a money, like some people set up a money altar or whatever, that's completely fine. But as you start to align yourself with your destiny and you are doing regular dafa or getting regular reading, Ifa will eventually lead you to whatever altars you're supposed to have or whatever work you're supposed to be doing outside of maybe having an ancestor altar, or maybe having something like a money altar or another altar for the ancestral altar for our freedom fighters. So I wanted to answer those questions first. And then I wanted to add to what Baba was saying about the OB divination. When I first started in this tradition 15 years ago, and I consumed everything in terms of reading books about it. I also learned that you can do divination and go to your ancestors with pennies. You can also, a lot of what was is shared here in the diaspora specifically are the cowrie shells. And the reason why is the cowrie shells are sacred to our ancestors. we received the coconut shells by way of Cuba and their practice of Ifa on the island of Cuba and their inability to gain access to Obi Abata cola nuts. However, just recently, once again, I learned that the coconut itself is a very sacred fruit and is like an orisha all its own. So you can conceivably go to your ancestors, like Baba said, the coconut, Obiabata is the preferred method if you have it and if you know how to use it and read it. Otherwise, going to your ancestors with 4 cowrie shells, 4 coconut shells, and I have been in a pinch sometimes where I thought I had my shells or I thought I had some OB, and I had to consult the ancestors and use 4 pennies. So, I mean, that's when you're in a crunch. But yes, and some other people go to their ancestors. They may not have a connection with OB on any level, right? Mm-hmm. So some people read their crystals. Some people, read with, they get their ancestors through, get their questions answered through water divination. So that's why when you asked me the question, I said it's really interesting because there are different ways to be able to not only communicate with the ancestors and the spirits, but also there are different ways to be able to communicate with the ancestors and the spirits, and all of them are valid if it speaks to your Ori. If you feel as if this is where your strongest communication is coming from with them, then I say stick with that system until you learn something else. Or what I always say in our Egbe is until you get some more information, some new information.
Ashe. I love it. So another thing that I want to get into was readings. What are readings? What are they used for, and what do we get out of readings? Because I know there's a lot of people, like Baba was saying earlier, the planet is, we're going through an awakening, and the planet itself is going through an awakening where a lot of us are waking up to a higher level of consciousness. And so for those of us who were raised in the church or raised in the Western cultural, spiritual, or religious practices, we're not really knowledgeable on what a reading is, what the benefits of getting a reading is, how a reading is even conducted. So some people are kind of nervous because they hear that it could be witchcraft and sorcery and all this foolishness because they don't have the information on it. So can you either one of y'all answer on what a reading is, how we get a reading, and what are the benefits of readings?
Okay. I'll go first, Ia. Okay. First, the Ifa tradition is primarily an oracle tradition, so it's dominated by the oracle. And Orunmila is the Orisha of the oracle. He's the one giving the oracle. You should get readings. Well, so let's start from the beginning. The first reading you should get is called Esentaye, which means first treading of the earth. And that's a reading for the child to find out what their Odu is, and it's given a few days after they're born. Now, with all the historical disruption and oppression and the dislocation, that's been a practice that we don't have anymore as a people. But what that would do for us is that it would point out certain things for the child, like what could be a favorable course for them to take up a profession in. What things should they look out for that could cause them an issue in terms of their own health? Because it could be different for different people, depending on what that Odu or what that reading will say. It can be something that could reveal just what their very powerful or their best qualities are, and the parent could know how to support and shape the child or nourish them in a way that would uh, develop these type of skills or these types of abilities that Ifa says through the reading that they would get as a child that they would have. But let's say, you've gone through time and you like myself, you haven't had the advantage of an Esentaye, you can still get regular readings. We say that people should have readings within a certain cycle. It could be within let's say a moon cycle, a 28-day cycle, or a sun cycle, depending on the activities in their life. We say it should not go more. If you're going to be involved in Ifa, you should not go more than a quarterly sun cycle without a reading on what's going in and around your destiny. All
Right.
readings will be compared to the person's destiny. And ultimately, they need to get, even if they're getting regular readings, they should get a reading to reveal their Odu. Even if Ifa says that they're not receiving a hand of Ifa. But in most cases, if you're involved in Ifa tradition, he's going to say, you should have your own hand of Ifa. This is what he's going to say. So you'd have that connection to help reveal which way to go, how you should move with your destiny to make it most beneficial on a day-to-day basis. Because you go to Ifa as a Orisha on a 4-day cycle, like every 4 days. We call it a 5-day, but it's actually a 4-day cycle. So again, divination is a tool to guide you with your destiny, to guide you. Now, you should be able to hear your own head. There should be a connection in you, a feeling, a source.
With your ancestors. Yes.
Yes, as he is saying, especially after you've made a connection with your ancestors, you should be able to hear it. What you're going to the priest or priestess for is confirmation as to what your Ori is telling you. But if you're not hearing, if you can't hear what your Ori is saying, then you're kind of guideless. You should not have to wait to get that reading like every 28 days or every sun cycle to find out what your Ori wants of you or how to be in alignment. That should be a relationship every moment of existence. You should be able to nourish that relationship. You should be able to feel that. You should be able to follow that. And so the whole method, the whole aim of Ifa is to turn on that, just like Neo. Morpheus' whole purpose was to turn Neo onto himself, to make him aware. He said, I'm trying to free your mind. Free it. You got to let it go. You got to let all that stuff go that's blocking you from you. Who are you and what did you come here for? This is what Ifa wants you to identify. And then you should be able to embrace that.
And that's done through the system of divination with a Babalawo or Ianifa or Babalorisha or Ialorisha. And Ifa teaches us to accept, as Baba was saying, if you would have gotten an Esentaye as a child, your parents would have known what your destiny is, and then they would have been able to work with the Babalawo over the years of your development so that you could eventually grow into what Ifa told them that you came here to become when they took you to see them as a child. Obviously, here in the diaspora, we missed that part, but this is why we get regular readings now, because Ifa is a nature-based tradition. So everything is about aligning with nature, right? And so when we realize and understand that nature is constantly changing, it's changing right now as we're speaking. So that means if the vibration of nature is always changing and we're nature-like beings, or we should be, especially melanated people or indigenous people, then that means that the vibration around us is changing just like nature is changing. And so as such, this is why it is suggested or recommended that a person get regular readings on a regular basis throughout their lifetime. And that's important to note, because there's never a point in Ifa where you get and you just be like, okay, now I know my destiny, I know my Odu, I'm good, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why that is because, 28 days, 90 days later, the energy around you is going to shift. And we have to really look at that from the perspective of us being in this marketplace, right? In Aye here, in this marketplace, because we're so far removed from what is natural for us in nature that it really would be to our disadvantage not to continue to get our divination done regularly. Because Ifa teaches us, as Baba was saying, the Babalawo, once the child or the adult comes to the Babalawo, Ifa can predict what is going to happen. And as such, another tenet of Ifa teaches us, except for the day you were born and the day you were supposed to die, right? There's no single no single event in your life that can't be forecast and when necessary changed. And so with that being said, sometimes people may have situations in their lives that, I'm just going to take medical, for example, a health issue. The doctors don't know what's wrong. Nobody know what's wrong, but they are physically ill. They know they're physically ill, but no one knows what was happening. And they get more sick by the moment. And usually that's because they're out of alignment with their destiny. And Baba Shola and I have had several cases and stories that we could share about people who came that were experiencing illnesses, and then once they aligned with their destiny, those things were eradicated for them. But the most important part of what I'm saying on the other side of that is, again, this is a lifestyle. This is not, it's like your diet. Your diet is a lifestyle. Being healthy is a lifestyle. So it's not something that you can get one time and then put on the shelf and like a diploma or like some kind of degree or whatever, and then now it's over and you just get to look at it. No, this is something that should be consistently done throughout your lifetime in order for you to live the life that what we call Ire, meaning the life of blessings and alignment here on earth. And our whole objective is to align with the person that we were in earth down here in heaven.
That's what's
down here. Alive with who we were in heaven down here on earth. Right, exactly.
Ashe. I can't remember if I said it. I thought I said it for an hour and 30 minutes. If so, I think we got about hopefully almost 20 more minutes.
Okay.
So leaving from there with the reading, as far as the Orishas, can we get into who the Orishas are, what are their attributes and their powers, and how do we appeal to them? How do we, same way you broke down the ancestors and how we communicate with them, can we kind of get into who the Orishas are, what are their attributes and their powers, and how can we connect to them, or how can we offer them, our offerings and communicate with them? And can we have Orisha altars, those of us the people who are non-initiates? Is that acceptable?
Let me start on that. I want to say that because we talked about nature, and now we're talking about Orisha.
Ashe.
The word nature comes from the word neter. It comes from Egypt. It comes from Africa. Neter and nature are the same thing. It's the same word. Neter and nature. And Orisha essentially are the forces of nature. Now, the translation for Orisha is selected head, or Orisha. Ori meaning head, and Sha means to select, meaning some heads or some consciousness are not selected and some are. The ones that are selected are Orisha. And so Ifa says, it teaches that everything has some type of awareness about itself, or consciousness, conscious forces. So when we say get in alignment with your nature or follow your nature, that means get in alignment with your Orisha, or yourself as Orisha.
Ashe.
Ifa says people become Orisha.
Mhm.
People, you. It's our divine, let's say, destiny to become Orisha. And it may take more than one lifetime to become Orisha, but that's what you are doing. You are coming to a point you could align to the point where you are that Orisha. And you could do that while you're on earth. There are many in our historical past who were born people that weren't Orisha, but while on earth, they became Orisha. There's many Apataki, or many Odu that talk about Orishas, or people that were not Orisha and became Orisha, like Shango. Shango became Orisha. He was the fourth Alafin of Oyo. He became Orisha. Same thing was in Egypt. Osiris, Tahuti, all of them were people. And then they became netters. Okay, they became netters. So the Orisha in Ifa is usually assigned from birth. They say that you came to earth with this Orisha. And that would be an Orisha that will dominate your consciousness. Okay. But it does not mean that's the only one that let's say that's aligned with you or involves itself, in a major way with you. But to be the one that will dominate. So with myself, it's about Allah. With other people, they have a specific one, and you reflect a lot of the qualities, a lot of the habits, a lot of the nature, or let's say personality, if you have, of that Orisha, and that Orisha will interact with you and the rest of the world. But Ifa says that in terms of getting support and the let's say the ability to go to them for things in terms of EBO or petitions, Orisha will help you according to your destiny. If it's out of alignment with your destiny, then there's no role that they will play in assisting you. Okay, they won't be against you, but there's no role, there's no EBO for that. Let's say, it's not magic. Everything that is done for the person is done because of Ori. Everything's in the hands of Ori. And so Ifa even says Ori is Orisha. The Ori that's on top of your shoulders. That's Orisha. That Orisha is actually called Ori Alasan Waye. That Ori can move around in the cosmos. But what he says too, that the seat of Ori is actually your navel. Ori Nu is at your navel. And that's a very deep concept, because a lot of the traditions around the world say that the chi energy, or the prana, or the essence of a person, spirit of the person, is in and around their navel. And so a lot of exercises, a lot of yoga, a lot of physical techniques will be utilized to enhance that power. So you're enhancing the nature, or the nectar, or the, how would you say, the God, or the Orisha in you. You're enhancing that. People are Orisha. People become Orisha. And your petitions, your offerings, your sacrifice, your divination is all for Ori. If there's no work with Ori, then there's no work for the priests, any of them. They don't have any work to do with people. Ori is dictates that, Ori. And Ori is given to you before you come to earth, and Ori is the destiny. Destiny and Ori mean the same thing. It's revealed through divination, preferably at Esentai, but it can also be revealed at other times in your life. So again, Orisha, in which we say there's 401 that are identifiable, let's say, and it could be more. But consciousness is what is emphasized with Orisha. A mind, it is an intelligence that Ori has that manifests itself in the world.
Now, on the for those who haven't studied as far and went as deep into knowing that I didn't even know there was 400. That's a lot. Who are the main 7? And then is it okay, or how do we give them offerings? And is it okay for us to set up an Orisha altar as well?
You want to answer that, Ia?
Yes. So, yes, Ifa teaches us that there's 401. The N1 is different than +1. Some people say 401. And the reason why that is because if you add 400 and +1, that makes it 401. But it's N1 because we always want to leave. Ifa says that every time that we come together in prayer, song, ritual, Reiki, offering, sacrifice, now lies the opportunity for another Orisha to be created. So this is why there is 401 Orishas. However, we are most familiar with, especially here in the diaspora, what we call the 7 African powers, okay? And so the 7 African powers consist of, first and foremost, Obatala, who is also known as Orishanla. He is considered the big Orisha. And Obatala is the father Orisha. He's the father of all. He is the one responsible for creations, actually creating of the molding and the clay, the molding of our skulls and what became our physical head, okay? And then there is Eshu, right? In other traditions and other practices of this tradition, like Santeria or Lukumi, and maybe even Candomblé. And I know also in Haiti, they refer to Eshu as Alekba or Papa Legba or Lekbara. But that particular name for Eshu comes from a Yoruba word called Alabara, which is a path or road of Eshu that means strong man. So you have Obatala, you have Eshu, then you have Yemoja, you have Ochun, Oya, Ogun, and Chango. Right? That's 7. Obatala, Yemoja, Obatala, Eshu, Yemoja, Oshun, Oya, Ogun, and Shango. Those are the 7 African powers. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Something happened with my computer. I kind of went out for a minute. Abishola, you're kind of stuck right now. Are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, now I can. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. I was just listening to you. So, oh yes, this is what we need to understand. Orisha. What's that?
Let me say this. There are other Orishas that are like associated and affiliated with the 7 African powers. For instance, when people receive Ogun, they don't receive Ogun without receiving Oshosi, okay? And so it's just like Oshosi is included in a part of the 7 African powers, right? Because him and Ogun work very, very closely together. And then there's another Orisha called Aganyu, right? Who is the brother of Shango. And sometimes, you know, so again, we're expanding beyond the 7 African powers, but and then there is obviously now Baba Luaye or Oba Luaye, right? Who is the Orisha of infectious diseases, and then we have his counterpart, female counterpart, whose name is Nana Baruku, okay? Who is also a healer. So those, and then we can go further into Orisha Oko. I think, Baba, that's the Orisha of agriculture. Is that correct? In gardening? Yes. Baba Shola?
Yes.
Baba
Did you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
I don't think he can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Now I can. Now I can. So, yeah, so those are like other Orishas that are not considered a part of the 7 African powers, but usually they're like closely related. They're their sisters or their brothers, for lack of a better term. Okay, and then I'll let Baba go ahead with that.
Yes. Now, in terms of setting up altars, you can set up an altar. First of all, what is an altar? An altar is just a substitute for that Orisha's natural grove in nature. Okay, again, so the grove of Obatala is the mountains. The grove of Oshun is going to be the river or the stream. The grove of Yemaya is the ocean. So this is all you're doing is you're getting the otans, or what you call stones, or some other item from that area. You're putting it in a pot, and you're gathering other items from that place in nature, and you're invoking that Orisha at that pot in your presence, in your home. You're just reproducing nature. This is what you're doing.
Yeah. But Baba, I think because that's yes, Baba's correct. That is reproducing nature. Yes. But usually when a person is supposed to have a pot with otans and all of those things, that's because it has come down in divination that Orisha wants to be closer to this person so that they can now be more in alignment with that Orisha, and that Orisha now can help and assist this person in their walk with aligning with their destiny. But I think one of the questions he's really wanting to ask is, let's say a person don't get divination, but they feel a very close connection to Oshun. Can they set up like an Oshun altar without the otans, without, you know, any of the sacred amulets of Oshun, and still be connecting to that Oshun energy? I think that's what you're really wanting to know, right, Andre?
Yeah, that's
Oba?
it.
That's what you're really wanting to know?
Yes, they can.
Yes.
They can. But understand too, and this is a very important message from Ifa. When you go to these areas, like you go to the stream, the way to understand it is that Oshun is there. So what Ifa is trying to get you to understand is that whatever level you are going to be making an altar, you are trying to reproduce that area, Otan or not, because that Orisha is at the stream. That's her real grove. The real grove of Oshun is the stream. The sacred grove of Orisha is always in the forest. The most sacred ones, that's where they reside at. That Orisha is there, meaning when you go out, let's say you just go out there. Now, the way to go out there without awareness of that is you're just going out there. But the way to understand the reality, the spiritual reality of the world is that wherever you go in the world, it's sacred. The earth is sacred. It has intelligence there. Earth is Orisha.
Mm.
You should revere earth in a certain way.
I should.
You should make Adimu, offering the earth from time to time. And communicate with the earth, because the earth shouldn't be abused. The earth, to live well on the earth, we need that Orisha support. So you're just not standing on ground. You're not just paving over land and building a skyscraper and doing your thing or whatever business and what's on it. Who cares what's on this land? Whatever. Right. That's not the way Ifa wants you to conduct yourself on the earth. Earth is Orisha. It must be respected. Okay. If you also value your life and time, you're going to do that.
And also too, if you are going to bring to what Baba was saying, another way to actually bring the Orisha into your home and set up the altar would be something simple as, bringing together all of the things that the person may know about Oshun, since we were talking about her favorite color, her number, her flowers, she's the epitome of femininity, her fan, her mirror, she's about vanity and beauty and sweetness. Honey is her thing. So bees in nature represent Oshun. But if you put any or all of those things, some or all of those things together to create an altar for Oshun, and you don't have an actual pot, or it doesn't, you haven't got the divination where if I says that this Orisha wants to be seated in your house or closer to you, then you can always, as Baba was saying, go to the stream and get the water of Oshun and put it in something and then bring it back to that altar. That's a way to connect with her. If you were doing it for Yemoja, it would be the same thing. But just know this, that in Yoruba land, Yemoja is the queen of the rivers. She comes out of the Ogun River. But here in the diaspora, she is venerated at the ocean, okay? So, yes, a person can have what we would call it's not a makeshift altar, because if you really feel the connection with the Orisha, then, they're with you already. All you're doing in creating that altar is creating a sacred space for you to directly communicate with that Orisha if you don't go to where that Orisha resides in nature.
That's what's up. So we at the time, I think the time limit, I guess they keep letting us go, but one thing I want to do before we close it up, because I definitely got to have y'all back on. We can, when the schedules cross, when we can link up time frames again, because I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to benefit a lot from the information that you shared with us today. Before we wrap it up though, can you guys let people know if it's cool with y'all, like how to contact you if they want to get a reading or if they want to get a consultation or anything that can help bring some of this information to people on an individual level? Is it cool for you guys to share some type of contact information for the people who might want to reach out and maybe possibly get a reading or to invest in your services?
Yes, absolutely. As of right now, actually, it's just we've been flying under the radar for a very long time. That's why people are always surprised when they hear that there is an actual Ifa community here in Las Vegas, the capital of quote unquote Sin City. And so as such, we just really are starting to put together our website. However, we do have an Instagram page, and we do have a Facebook page that one of our almost have created for us. And all they have to do is look for us on Instagram or on Facebook at Egbe, which is spelled E, G as in George, B as in boy, E as in elephant, Ifa, I, F as in Frank, A, and then Iwa, I, W, A, and then Rere, R-E-R-E. That is Egbe, Ifa, Iwa, Rere. And I'm not really sure. I'm doing ear work over here, so I don't really get on social media that much. But it may even also say, I'm not sure if the website, if the Facebook page or the Instagram page, it may have Las Vegas attached to it. So, and then I think we have an email address that is info@egbe@gmail.com. I believe that's it. Otherwise, they can reach me directly. I usually do all of the scheduling for the DAFA and the organizing of the Egbe activities. My telephone number is 702-782-3515. Again, I can be reached directly at 702-782-3515. They can also find us on Facebook at Egbe Ifa Iwa Rere. It may say Las Vegas. And also on Instagram at Egbe Ifa Iwa Rere, or email us at info@egbe-ifa-iwa-rere@gmail.com.
And real quick too, if you could just text me that, like after we wrap it up, I'll share it on my social medias as well, because a lot of people, they're thankful and grateful for the information. It's been very informative, they're saying they're looking forward to the next one. So I'll also my pages too. Baba, how about you? Did you want to sign out with sharing some info with the people as well?
Yeah, I'm going to leave the contact info there with Ia, because she's right about all of that.
Okay.
But what I will say is this is a time of renewal for us, for the earth, and it is not the time of it's really not the time of tragedy. I understand there's lots of tragedy. There's lots of illness. There's lots of sickness right now. What we should do, those that are looking back, because often it's said, we go with Sankofa. To look forward is to look back. Look back on our tradition. Look back on our history. Orunmila Ifa brings from that past the understanding of how we spiritually save ourselves. His name is Heaven is My Salvation. That is true for you. Orun, your destiny, which comes from heaven, is your salvation in good times and in times of difficulty, like we're having right now. So as we reach back, know that this is your tradition. It's there for you. We will make ourselves available for you. I'm praying that all of you are safe. You have a long, continuous life, array of money, array of success, happiness, matrimony, and all your blessings come true. All of them were granted to you before you came to this earth. If I want you to know that you can reach out for them and embrace them and support them through the tradition of Ifa. This will help you. Okay? This is what Ifa wants you to understand. Okay? And with that, I look forward to seeing you again. Ashe.
I appreciate you. Real quick, too, before we wrap it up, Maisha, I appreciate you joining in. I want to give Shamika a shout out, because if it wasn't for Shamika bringing me to speak at her shop in Vegas, when I came out to Vegas, I would have never met none of y'all to make this connection. So I want to give her a special shout out as well. And I appreciate
Shamika, we have that applicant traditions. Yes.
Yeah, and so I want to give her and her husband a shout out. I appreciate them for inviting me to speak there, and then also I appreciate you all for the love and support and the hospitality for inviting me, to share, some sacred ceremonial times with you when I was out there. So I appreciate all of y'all for that. And real quick, everybody who tuned in on social media, because I did stream it live. A lot of people they really appreciated it. They was really happy with the information. They said that they got a lot out of it. So we'll definitely try to make this happen again in the near future. We'll come up with some new topics and some new things to discuss. And I want to thank each and every one of y'all from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. I appreciate you all for being a part of it. And with that being said, I think we can wrap it up.
And we want to thank you. We want to thank you too for, forging ahead and having the foresight to even put something like this together for the people and keeping that connection strong, not just between you and us here in Vegas, but throughout the EFI community or those people that may be interested in becoming a part of the EFI community. So Modupue Pupo to you as well, Bawa.
Absolutely.
Andre.
Modupue, thank you.
Appreciate it. We just getting started. So y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm going to be in touch very soon. I appreciate y'all.
Okay. All right. Odavo.
All right.
Ashe.
Ashe.